Hello everybody, welcome into Rock Painting 101. If you're joining in on the replay, thanks for watching the replay. I always appreciate that as well. Like I said, I've been in the transition and moving, so it's been pretty crazy getting everything all set back up, and finally found all the pieces to my lights and things like that. This is my little cheater to make sure I stay on the screen. So I've got a little bit more range than I thought. So International Drop a Rock Day is July 3rd, and they always have a theme, and I know that's right around the corner. This year's theme is Be the Light. So we're doing this really cool broken rock. We've done broken rocks before, but this one we're doing with the theme Be the Light. So we're picking a bright color to have inside coming from the darkness of the rock, and you can use whatever color rocks that you have. So the first thing we're gonna do is start creating our hole in our rock. As you can see, I've got one kind of prepped here so we can do a little quick swap within the tutorial so that it is working. Oh, I've got somebody saying they have no sound. Uh-oh. And I'm not seeing the comments on my screen right here. Anybody else? Can anybody hear me? I'll kind of wait and make sure this is working properly. Okay, Jane says she can hear me. Okay, so somebody can hear me that I have sound. Okay, so whoever, I popped by really fast. So if you said you didn't have sound, maybe come back out and come back in. So thank you guys for responding to that. So I've got my iPad set in front of me so I can kind of see the comments. Obviously, sometimes I miss them when I've got my face down to a rock. So the first thing that we are going to do is create the broken space on the rock. So I am using my 1M Posca here, and this actually works better sometimes on rougher rocks because you can let the pen kind of bounce along the edge of your bumps and rocks. And we're just going to go kind of lightly here first. It doesn't have to be a super solid black line yet, and you just kind of bump around, leaving some kind of points and edges along the way on the edge of your rock. So just kind of use the natural shape of your rock. As you can see, different shapes are going to give you different kind of cut out spaces, which is what makes these so unique and fun to do. No two will be exactly alike. So once you've got your cutout area here, where you have the points is where you're gonna occasionally make these cracking areas. Jenny said she rejoined in. Can you hear me now? I didn't notice if you said you could hear now or not, so hopefully you can. All right, so when you get to the points out here, that's where you can create these kind of cracks going out to the side. So just go from the point kind of up in one way and then create almost a Y shape off of that first line. So we'll just do a couple of them. You can always add more. You can't take them away. So I tend to just do a few and then come back later. Some of you all probably saw I've done a broken heart before. If you've seen that video, you can leave a little heart emoji, or the broken rainbow if you got a rainbow emoji, if you saw that tutorial. So we're just gonna go along a couple of these areas. You can leave some that are just single lines as well, kind of coming off to the side. And I kind of lift as I pull away. It'll help it kind of thin out a little bit as it gets out to the edge, just like that. And I'm just gonna start with that. Again, you can come back and add more. Now I'm working right on my rock, so if you see me doodle off, I like to doodle off the tip of my pen when I'm straight on rock, because sometimes even when you clean them, you'll get a little bit of dust on the tip of your paint pen. So we're gonna get out some white paint here. This step is pretty obvious, as you can see my one up above here, but when you want that nice bright rock, we're gonna have Be the Light. We want our color to be nice and bright. We're gonna just do a layer of white underneath our color, and that will just help it be nice and bright on our stone, especially if you're on a darker stone. It's important to get this white down first. Otherwise, you're gonna have to use multiple layers probably of your color that you choose to get it nice and bright on your rock. And I am gonna fill this in because I'm gonna come back after the live and do this one in kind of a pink color. I'm gonna do a yellow one live for you guys today. So if you are joining in live, let us know where you're watching from. I can officially reveal where I left. I know some of you guys figured it out. I was in Colorado, but I don't ever say where I am now. Some people had stumbled into some of my rocks and found the local group where I was sharing rocks. I was hiding around town there. I have quite a few to hide at my new location as well. I'm just gonna go along here, but it's been almost probably at least a month since I've been live. We had our things put into storage for a week or so. So I was doing other painting, not rock painting, but wall painting, which I do not enjoy nearly as much. I know some people do enjoy that. But it's nice to kind of start getting back into the swing of things. So if you've done any Be the Light rocks too, I don't know if you can share pictures during the live video, but come back when we're done with the live and share your Be the Light rocks that you've done, if you've done any, in the comments, because there's lots of ones out there to inspire you. I don't want to have to get more white paint. This will be good enough. Get it filled in all these holes here. I can come back and add some more in a little bit, but I guess we'll need a little bit. I've added a little bit of a highlight inside the green once I had that down. So here we go. So just fill it in with the white and swap. It's like movie magic, right? So I'm gonna clean out that brush here real quick. Yes, I agree. Rock painting is much, much more fun than wall painting. You would think I'd be good at the edging, but I'm not. It's not fun for me. All right, so we're gonna get our yellow out here, and I'm gonna start by just covering the whole thing with a coat of the yellow, but then we're gonna come back and add just a little bit of white highlight in the center. I've got just a piece of a makeup sponge. You guys know that I like to use these. They just don't have a lot big holes, so it's really good for blending. If you don't have these, you can blend with your brush as well. I've shown that technique, but this is just, to me, the easiest way to get a nice blend with your paint, especially if you're not great at blending. So we're just gonna go in all the way to our edges here and add in some yellow. And don't worry if you go over your black just a little bit. We're gonna kind of touch up that black when we're doing our shadows anyways. So this is kind of a very forgiving style of rock painting. And see, even with this yellow, we might have to add a second coat to get it nice and bright. Yellow can be, I want to say thin, but even with good paints, it can be a little opaque. This one's Deco our bright yellow, if anybody's curious. And the green is grasshopper green that I used back there. I had never used that color. It still had the plastic on it. But it's a very fun, bright green. And the pink one I'm going to do later. I actually have a neon, pink neon color that I'm going to use. So we're just going to go right up to the edges. And I don't know if you notice, when I load up a lot of paint, like if I'm doing a big space like this, and I get a lot on my brush, I always paint a little in the center first so you don't end up with that glob when you're trying to get all the way out into your tips. So you can really kind of load up your brush, put it down towards the middle, and then work on those edges like that. And we'll fill in our center here. Here we go. Okay. Rinse our brush out. To the side. Now, while that yellow is drying a little bit, I do want this first layer to get a little dry before we start to highlight. I'm going to take my black and we're going to come along where we've created these cracks and we're going to thicken up some of the sections. I think I did it on a couple of these already, you can see there, so that it gets that illusion that it gets thinner. So if you come back close to where the points are and you kind of thicken up those areas, it's going to help us create those dark shadows in the corners when we come back and do some of our shading. And you can use this time too if you want to add a few more cracks and things as well. No two rocks like this are going to be alike. I love those kind of designs where everybody's will be just a little bit different. Have that one kind of spider off a couple places like that. You can go to your edges that you maybe went over just a little bit and just let them lump and bump. You don't need any actual straight lines on this design, which is kind of nice, especially if you have a hard time with straight lines. Okay, so we're going to give this just a second to dry here, and I think I'm actually going to do this one in this direction. A lot of times with more natural stones, just kind of look and see which way it lays, like, because if it's this way, it seems like it kind of falls away. So if you set it on the ground, it's not really the way they're going to see it best. This way, they'll see it best when you have writing on your rock. So we're going to let this dry just a second. While that is drying, I'm going to get one more little bit of white here on my plate. I know you can't probably see that because I put it right on top of white. And again, my little piece of sponge. I just cut these up. I tear them and cut them all the time. And I let them dry usually right like this, and then you can just snip off and use your sponges over and over again. You could probably wash them out too, but I never get to them fast enough. Okay. All right, we're going to go back in here with some yellow out towards the edges here because we want that to be nice and thick. Anywhere where you can kind of see any darkness coming through. And that will also give us some paint to pull when we're blending into the center. Now I don't want it completely white in the middle, but we're going to start with white and then add some yellow to it. And that will make sense here in a moment. I'm just going all the way out to those edges. And you don't have to get all the way in the corners. We're going to add some shading in there anyways. So on this second coat, you don't worry about getting all the way up to the line as much. And we're going to shade using our paint pen. I've got a fun little trick if you've not seen these broken rock ones before. What we're going to do is take our little sponge here and we're just going to dab, dab, dab in the white and then kind of dab it off to the side. We don't want too much paint on it. So fill it with the white, a little bit to the side, and we're just going to start in the center and kind of add that light in there and then grab a little yellow like that just to lighten up the center. I might need more white paint. There wasn't very much there. I don't like to waste paint, so I put a little on my plate at a time. There we go. So once you've got that going, it's going to pull some of that yellow back up. You can add a little more yellow to it. It's just going to help highlight that center on there for us, just to lighten it up. And I got something on my rock there. So that it's just got that lightness coming from within on the stone. And just like that, super simple, don't need to overdo it. I think I might have pulled a little green up from below, but that's okay. It still looks really pretty. All right, that's got to dry a little bit again. This one has some dry time to it, so I don't have my blow dryer over here yet, so I can't really speed it up too much. But we do need these edges to be dry before we start going in with our shading on our rock. I'm just going to pull out a frame so I can assist it a little here. Give that just another minute. So sorry if I'm missing any of your questions. It doesn't really keep very many up on the iPad for me. to see for very long. I can see people popping in and joining in. So if you're joining in late, we're working on Be the Light Rocks for International Drop a Rock Day, which is July 3rd, which I know is right around the corner. So you might have already finished yours up, but I usually try to do at least one for the season. That way we can update the website with it too. They've had a lot of them in the past. I think this is probably the 5th or 6th year where they've had a theme where everybody can kind of get in together with it. I was thinking about doing my pink on there, but it's still a little wet. So we're gonna start where I can tell it's drier here on the edge, I think. Don't wanna rush it too much. But dry time is boring to me, so I'm sure it's boring to you. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take, I've got just this tiny little brush here and some water. This is a 3/0 brush. Just anything where you're gonna be able to work small spaces at a time, because you're gonna have to be able to get into these little corners and areas on your rock. So if you don't have a really small brush like this, you can take scissors to a brush. I've done it before and create a finer tip brush. And it really can work out well. You don't have to go out and buy a particular brush like I have. This one back here, you can really just take half of them to the side and just snip them off if you need to. So we're just gonna take the smallest amount of water when we're using water. I never go into the metal because you don't want it flowing and dripping back out on this process, because we're gonna just be very light with it. So what I'm gonna do, I usually work my way around the rock 2 times. So you're just gonna add basically a little dot of paint in there. And then we're gonna get the littlest bit of water. I don't even dip the whole thing in there, and dab off some of it. And you just wiggle on that paint to kind of get it into the bristles, and then pull it a little bit out like that. Then you can add a little bit more water. And we're just gonna kind of wiggle in that area to create this little shadow. You see how that worked? It's so simple. It's great for beginners though. I mean, this is a really easy way to add a simple shadow. So you just work a little space at a time. If you end up with too much wetness on your brush, just walk away from that spot and come back to it. And you just really wiggle those bristles on there to get that dark on first. Then you come in with just the littlest bit more water to kind of pull it out into the design. And we can come back and darken areas again too. So slowly work your way around your rock doing this. And you can put down, you can play around with it. Sometimes I put down a little bit of water. And then you can kind of add it. It's just a really simple shadow. And I'll show you a couple things that can happen here. I know I've done these rocks before, and I've had people, so sometimes you get almost just like a stripe. Just come back in with water and kind of fade that out. Then you can come back in and darken it a little bit more. That's why I usually end up doing 2 trips around my rock, because when it dries, it can look a little bit different. And sometimes see the water kind of spilled over there. I don't know what that will look like. We can come back and fix that later. The deeper the crack, the darker I like it to be on the inside. So sometimes you don't even need to add any more water when you first go in. See how it makes it look like that light's coming from inside the rock. This to me isn't a sharp enough point, so we'll fix that later. Too round. Needs to be very kind of jagged. When a rock breaks, you don't get really round edges very often. Just working the littlest bit of water. There we go. So if you feel like it's, you can just dry off. I keep like a little washcloth over here. You can just dry off that water. If you need it to be a little darker. When you go in and you add a new section and get that really dark color on your brush, you can always bounce back and forth between areas just to add a little more darkness. Like that. That dried really well. I don't see too much grain. I see a little grain in there. I don't know if you can see it where you're at. A little bit of green. That's what I get. I put my paint right on top of where I had done my green paint. And obviously take your time. If you haven't done many of these, it takes a little practice. I'm moving a little quick, obviously, because I'm live here. I don't want you to have to be on all day, though it's been a while. And as you've noticed, I'm rotating my rock. It's always good to kind of keep the very tip of your brush upward. Don't try to work your way around like this, bending your wrist all crazy. That won't work out so well. As long as you're working with it fairly quick, it will, you can maneuver it. I almost put my paint pen in my water. Adjustments. And as you see, I'm not even putting my water, my brush all the way in the water every time. Sometimes when I spin it on the edge, it leaves like a little bead of water, and that's all I'm dipping into there. Just like a little bead that's stuck on the side of my container. Worked our way all the way around, and I'll show you. So see how in a couple spots you almost see like a gray line. You don't want it to be that harsh. So if you go into your water, you can kind of wiggle on that outer line to kind of fade it just a little bit. Sometimes it takes a second to kind of reactivate that paint. As long as you're, within a few minutes, you can kind of wiggle that edge and get that outer edge to blend just a little bit. You don't have that harsh line. There we go. See right there, we'll see if we can get that to loosen up a little bit. And if you can't, you can always create more of a shadow and pull it out. Like this one might be too dry. Let's see. Sometimes it takes, see, a little persistence. There we go. Soften that a little bit. Okay? Just like that. All right, now you can do a second lap around all the way if you want. I like to, like I said, if there's a really sharp area like this area up here, that to me needs to be dark. Like that should be a pretty dark little crack corner. So I'll come back in and add darkness in some areas like that where it gets extra dark all the way into the point, just because I think that's more realistic. So you can play around with some of the areas like that. Now I wanted to take care of, where's that round edge at? Right here. That's just too round for me, so we're just going to kind of come here and give it more of a point. And it's as simple as that, to see how we just made that the point. And we've got some black ink in there. We can kind of fade that out here as well. Oh, I I dipped my brush. See how I've got drips on there? I dipped my brush too deep. So just keep that in mind. You don't want it to drop on your work. Some of these things you live and learn. Mistakes the hard way sometimes. And I think this needs, it's a big piece. It's going to leave some cracks behind. Okay. We're going to leave it at that. I could probably play with it more, but you know. I like the yellow quite a bit. All right, now we just have to add Be the Light. Now you can do whatever kind of font, I don't know if that's the proper word, design for your lettering that you want. I'm just going to do something very simple and very easy here. Again, placement of your rock, which way does it sit and seem comfortable? It's funny, I feel like this one needs a little crack off the side. Whichever way it seems to lay, that's the way I like to add my lettering to the rock. So we're just going to do right down the center. And I'm not going to do anything super fancy. I'm using lumpy, bumpy rocks here, so keep that in mind if you're using bumpy rocks. Keep your design for your lettering as simple as possible, because you're bound to hit a couple bumps. So, Be the Light. I think an amazing theme for Drop a Rock Day. So, like I said at the beginning, if you've been doing Drop a Rock pictures and you've got some rocks, feel free to share them in the comments below. I'd love to see all your different designs and things that you're doing as well. If you do these, obviously, you know I love when you come back and share the rocks you do from the tutorials. Sorry, I gotta fix this one little spot standing out to me. Come back and share in the comments how it went, if you had any problems or tips that you kind of came up with by doing it as well. And we'll be back soon. Hopefully I'll get back to a regular basis of hopping on live at least once a week for you guys with some rock painting inspiration. Thanks everybody that joined in live, and thank you everybody that shared this into their local rock painting groups too. I always appreciate that as well. Everybody needs a little inspiration, right, from time to time. So we'll see you again soon. Happy painting. Bye-bye.